Hi guys, my name is Ripul Patel and I work for Rakuten, especially at Rakuten Cloud, division of Rakuten Group. Today I want to talk about the storage solution that we provide in Google Cloud Edge. And of course, it works for any Kubernetes services. And it is useful for all the stateful application. I'll dive into more. So basically, this is so you must have been seeing a lot of AI applications around here, right? So this is the infra part of the AI where all the AI applications are built on top of this, right? So this is the basic requirement for any application that is running today in containers, right? So let's dive into it. So today we're going to discuss about what cloud native storage is, why it's needed, and how do we basically make it resilient, right? So those are the questions that we're going to try to answer. Okay, so let's go to the first one, what? So I'm going to have an analogy, very basic analogy that we have. Like back in the days when we had to do any transaction, or let's say we had to have cash or transfers between different banks, we had to go through an agent, right? We go to an agent, we tell them, okay, we get a cash, or we ask them to transfer the money to different banks. Those are back in the days. Just like that, back in the days, the way an application owner, when it's developing an application and it requires a storage, they had to basically go through a storage admin, right? You go to a storage admin, tell those storage admin that I need this kind of a volume, 100 gig, 200 gig. I want to have some policies on that volume. How do you want to protect that volume and all? The storage admin will basically carves out that storage from the arrays or from the servers, and then it gives out those volumes to the application developer and it uses it, right? So there's a lot of manual steps in between that we used to have earlier. But if you go back to the analogy today, everything just happens self-serve, right? Customer doesn't need to talk to anybody. Everything is online, and then you directly basically transfer yourself. There is no middleman needed, right? So that's what we provide here, where for all the stateful applications, we are the autonomous platform behind the scene that's doing the heavy lifting of making all that transactions appear like happening by itself, right? It's like a self-service portal. So that's what we do. So now let's see why it matters. This kind of a portal matters at the edge because of the scale, right? So for an example, there are hundreds and thousands of stores that we have to manage. So we need to make sure the solution that we provide are working in coherence with all the other requirement of the application, and then it is managed. You can manage at scale. There is no manual intervention needed for every small thing, right? Because you have to manage thousands of stores. Data sovereignty. So there are many strict requirements from government where data cannot leave the a city boundary or a state boundary or even country boundaries, right? So that's why it has to be on that edge. You cannot put everything in the cloud. The deployment has to be automated. It's like set it and forget it. You cannot basically manual deployment. You cannot have it. It has to be automated. At the edge, basically the resources are very constrained, so you have to work in those constrained boundaries. Your solution cannot take much resources where other applications are competing for the same resources, right? So to make sure that the infrastructure layer does not hog onto the resources. The scheduling has to be dynamic. There are many instances where the servers can go down, this can go bad. So you have to do scheduling again of your current running workload. It has to be completely dynamic and automated, right? Other very big point here is rolling upgrades. There is always upgrades. So while doing an upgrade, you want to not minimize, in fact, completely omit the downtime. So you need to have your solutions designed such a way that there is no downtime. So we have to have that support for the rolling upgrades. And the last point is there are, let's say, server failures, disk failures. The failovers has to be transparent. User does not have to do anything manually there. It has to be resilient and transparent. So we're going to dive more into that particular thing. Everything else, also there are, we can dig into that deeper, but I want to focus on the last point where how we provide resiliency for the applications running on the edge. Okay. So what is okay, so uh, this is the base that we provide, right? So here if you see the on the edge there are servers, all the bare metal servers, or it can work even on VMs. On top of that, we have partnered with Anthos. Anthos is a Kubernetes provider, and on that basically we have our Rakuten Cloud native software defined storage that is taking care of all these features of how to manage the stateful applications. And you can get your own apps. You can even run VMs. We support Google VMs out of the box. So if you're your bare metal, you can run your VM, so your application doesn't have to change. You just get your own VM and deploy it. Any databases we support, and you can bring your own application. So these are all the features. We provide block storage, we provide file storage. It works with any of the hardware, die-cutter storage or SAN storage, anything. And these are we make sure that just putting another software layer, we don't want to, as I mentioned, right, we don't want to lose out on the performance, right? So let's say your disk throughput is 1000 IO, we don't want to like come to the 100 IOs, otherwise you will lose the almost 90% efficiency of your disk. So we do make sure that we are yeah, sure, but
Questions.
yes.
Where is the storage getting provided? So from you lose the connection to the cloud from the edge, you still have to listen.
So the storage, yeah. So this particular solution storage is provided by the servers. It's a direct attached storage, so it's not connected to edge to the cloud. This is all local. Even though it says Google Cloud Edge, what it means is everything is running locally, just like an on-premise services. But what by cloud, the word they are putting cloud because they want to give you a cloud-like experience on the on-premise. That's what it means. But there is no connectivity. There is a connectivity to cloud, but you don't require it to operate your edge site. So you require only when you want to back up your data to the cloud in any objects or anything. Otherwise, you don't require it. Everything is locally managed. I'll go through the availability part of it also as well. How do we get it locally? Okay. So these are the different volume characteristics that app developer is needed. So if you're familiar with the Kubernetes, they require they have the read-write once volume, and we provide replicated volumes, and there's a read-write many volume. So you can have a mix and match of things here, right? So here, what I want to intend to show is application have different requirements of volumes that some piece of the volume has to go on a faster media, some piece of the volume can go on the slower media because there's a cost associated with how with every kind of a volume, right? Then there are applications which require HA locally, and there are some application which doesn't require application because the data is replicated by application layer itself. So you can pick replicated versus non-replicated volume individually per volume basis. You don't have to have a platform telling you that every volume from this platform will be replicated. No, that's not what we want to do. We want to have a granularity of each volume layer that if you want to replicate or not replicate, right? And of course, rewrite many volume. There are some applications like Domino data that requires one volume need to be accessed by multiple applications, right? So we support all kind of volumes. As I mentioned, right, we need to understand that when the data is placed in the local edge center, they are placed in a way that it is fault tolerant, right? So let's say we want to have a three-way fault tolerant system, and the application user has to just request that, okay, it just puts in the requirement that, okay, I just want a volume with three-way replicated, and it has to be no fault tolerance. Everything else is taken care by the platform. That's the only thing that we do. So when we do a placement, we make sure that two replicas are placed in server A and server B, you cannot put the third replica in server B even though there is a space available. So we automatically make sure that replicas are correctly configured for the fault tolerance that it is asked for, right? So we do support fault tolerance as disk, domain, disk, node, even rack. We understand rack as well. And if you have your own custom topology, you can even feed that also into the system, and then we take care of the placement depending on the custom topology. Same way when, let's say if you want to, if your workload is already running, right, and then there are more workloads that shows up, or if you want to retire a server, then you want to move your data out, right? But during this movement, there could be hundreds gigs of data or petabyte of data or terabyte of data. You don't want to affect or you don't want to take downtime of your application, right? So we provide online move. So your data can be moved transparently underneath to the other application while it keeps serving the data to the application. And then we can basically take out the old servers or you can remove the old server. Everything is no downtime, zero downtime. Everything just works transparently. Okay, so I'll go through. So again, all the features that we provide. We provide snapshot clones. We provide topology awareness, as I mentioned. Performance is the first thing that we look for. Sorry, we don't compromise on performance. High availability replication. As I said, not only move, even the resize of a volume. When your volume has to expand, it's an online volume expand. We provide encryption to make sure that your data is not compromised in case of theft, to basically better get the yield of your disk. We also support compression, and of course you need to have a backup and restore capability when this is where basically you require a connection to the object store, that if you want to, let's say, back up your data to the cloud, that's when you use the link to the cloud. Otherwise, you can always back up locally as well. If you have NFS store locally, or if you have any object store running locally, we can always back up to any object store even running locally as well. Okay. Okay. So as I mentioned, all this thing was in context of basically there is no storage admin here. Application user basically picks a storage class. These are the different parameters that application user can set for its volume. And it basically, again, you can pick mix and match things, right? So we support media type. For faster media type, the user will say, I want SSD. For slower media, they will say HDD. Block size, as you can see, 512 we support. That is needed for the volumes, VM workloads. VM require 512 block size. All other application generally uses 4K. We support different FS file systems. Again, application, sometimes you just require 2 replicated volumes. You can pick 2 or 3. As I mentioned, fault domain could be for host, disk, or rack, compression, encryption, and other things that where you want to do a QoS kind of a thing for a volume. And then, of course, snapshot. So you want to make sure that you constrain your volume not to use more storage than it's intended to, right? So as you can see, this is all self-serve features that an application user can pick. There is no storage admin required here. All right, so I'll just go through some point again, right? Again, highly scalable and performance storage. We have integrated with Google directly. So we work with the Google engineering team, and they basically validate our solution with Anthos. We have a lockstep releases with them. So you can basically be assured that it is basically highly qualified with all the Google machinery, their QA, and their at scale they validate with our solution. From the business side of the things, right? Technical things is fine. From business side of things, also we want to make it very easy to consume, right? The finance department has to be happy, so the pricing is all inclusive, and there is no manual. There are a lot of challenges when you want to sell to a big companies, right? So it is all integrated with the marketplace. So if you are already a Google customer, there is no extra steps needed to work with our thing. You can just go to Google Marketplace and then start using it from them. So you don't really need another contracts with our company. And of course, you can leverage. Let's say if you don't want to have Google Distributed Cloud Edge appliance, it works with Google Distributed Cloud V also. So if you have your own on-premise hardware that you want to use, you can still go ahead with our solution. And as I mentioned earlier, minimum to no storage expertise required. So if you guys want to just have a link, so this is the Google official documentation that we have it uploaded there, and Google manages it. They validates everything, and they basically publish that in their website. And this is our own internal doc that you guys can take a look. And of course, you can ask any question. Feel free to ask any question. I'll be around here, and my lot of colleagues are gonna be here, so please feel free.